My name is Rhett Alden. I am the Chief Technology Officer for the Health Markets Division of Elsevier. I've been there about 5 years.
Yeah.
Really excited to have a chance to talk to you today.
Excellent. And Elsevier, tell us a little bit more about the work that it does globally.
Elsevier has a big focus on data and analytics today. We've been emerging or evolving from being a publisher to being an information and technology provider. And that's part of why I joined Elsevier. The repository of content is enormous. It's the largest publisher of medical knowledge in the world. And being able to leverage that for clinical decision support and insights is something that really excited me when I came there.
Yeah, look, I mean, because when I think of Elsevier, and I've known very well for that content piece and there being that trusted source for information, I knew a little bit that there was more to it. But tell me a bit more about then the decision support side that you're, I guess I'm assuming, leveraging some of that insights and content to then act and deliver more kind of impact.
So, we've got a couple products in that space. One is Clinical Path Oncology, and it delivers clinical guidelines and decision support for treatment of cancer. And that's been out in the field for many, many years, 10 plus years. And then we also have other products that are embedded into the EMRs. But I'm most excited about a new offering that we have called Clinical Key AI that uses generative AI technology and a retrieval augmented generation architecture to deliver precise clinical insights based on conversational approaches to clinicians.
Yeah, interesting. Because you were doing a session on generative AI here at HIMSS as well. Tell us a little bit more about what interests you about that space.
Yeah, so, I spoke yesterday, in fact, at an AI forum here at HIMSS, and one of the pieces I wanted to get across was that we've been building an infrastructure and support model that's foundationally based on responsible AI and AI ethics, because we think that the trust we have in our peer-reviewed content needs to kind of carry over into the trust in our technology. So it's focused on transparency, focused on having controls in place to mitigate unfair bias, and also has a really robust data governance model to make sure that the content that we're putting into the solution is indeed peer-reviewed, best practice content, and delivering that kind of quality that our customers expect.
Yeah, interesting. And so with the generative AI part and particularly, it sounds like focused on the clinical decision support side, what problems that solve? There's a product there and it's utilized by clinicians. What can it do by utilizing the power of AI to kind of take it to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. One aspect that's really important to our customers is access to quality information. And historically, that's been possible but cumbersome. When you think about finding a needle in a haystack, the haystack of clinical knowledge is enormous. So what happens is that some questions get left unanswered by clinicians just because of the time constraints they have. So a complex question, say with multiple comorbidities, whole drug cocktails, can take a half an hour of research. We get that down to a few seconds. So that's incredibly impactful. But also we reference the sources where we derive that answer from, which is also important. And that does a couple things. One, it improves the quality of care, we think, but it also helps with clinician burnout. Clinicians are really burdened today with a lot of challenges, and consequently nurses are leaving the workforce, clinicians are leaving the workforce in frustration. And we think we can make an impact there.
Yeah. I think you touched on this already, but I want to dive into a bit more, this trust piece, because as you rightly said, it built up a lot of trust and credibility through the Elsevier brand. If you're leaning into emerging technology, there's a lot of hype, a lot of interest, a lot of people want to be first, but in healthcare, we move a bit slower, we take our time because we're dealing with sensitive information. You've got to build that trust and credibility. I think you mentioned a couple of things already, like providing sources of information and trying to be transparent, but how else it's easy to say but hard to do in terms of bridge that gap and build that trust around the AI piece?
Yeah, and my background is, I came from a world of medical device development. Software is a medical device. I worked at GE Healthcare for 15 years, building fairly, I would argue potentially risky solutions under FDA control. And we're trying to apply those quality metrics to this solution as well. We're not regulated, We have a validation framework with literally hundreds of clinicians reviewing questions and summarizing and looking at completeness, relevance, helpfulness. And that information that we're getting is really important to driving that. But most importantly, we have a framework in place. And that framework is also being used in terms of real-world monitoring. So our product has been released, but we are literally monitoring feedback on a weekly basis to not only improve the system, but also mitigate and understand any risks that might occur. Because no product has zero risk, right? No product that the FDA approves has zero risk. The key is controlling it.
Yes.
Yeah, and having transparency when it occurs.
Yeah, that transparency piece is really important. Just back to your session that you provided on the Gen AI side, what would you hope that people take away from that particular session, or even just generally thinking about the Gen AI space in healthcare?
I think now there is a lot of hype, right? And there's a lot of fear. But I think what I was hoping people could get away from my presentation from is that it's possible to manage it, right? But you need to be managing it by leaning into the technology and leaning into the risk controls. And that's the way we would do any sort of device that needs to be at the point of care, right? You don't want to go into something blindly. And what I think that a lot of customers and even solutions out there that I've seen, they're either ignoring that or they're hoping that their solution will be safe.
Yes.
And we're doing it the other way around. We're building that in as a design principle. And I think that's our big differentiator. And I think that's really what our customers expect.
Yeah, absolutely. Lastly, then, looking to the future, a lot of exciting things. You've just launched the new product as well. What can we look forward to seeing from Elsevier over the next 6, 12, 24?
Oh, that's a good question. Some of the things that we're looking at is getting more fully embedded in the EMR, which is exciting. Also looking at patient context as part of the solution. Because right now, clinicians are typing in patient context information like lab results, et cetera, into the conversation query. We can pull that in dynamically and really help streamline the solution and make it even more effective. And then also, we also have some other cool technology coming out with Apple's Vision Pro that was just launched. We've got some really fascinating tools in that space as well.
Yeah. Can't wait to see some practical use cases for that. That's an exciting area.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right now it's more on the educational side, but who knows where that will lead. It's really exciting stuff, and we're at the leading edge on that, I think.